Have you ever felt your heart sink when you see an incoming call instead of a text message? Do you find yourself staring at a ringing phone, waiting for it to stop so you can text back instead? Maybe you've even developed elaborate strategies to avoid phone calls, letting them go to voicemail, texting immediately after with, "Sorry, can't talk right now," or feeling genuine relief when someone texts instead of calling. If this sounds like you, you're not alone. In fact, you're part of a growing number of people who experience what some researchers call telephone apprehension, or simply a strong preference for asynchronous communication. And there's actually fascinating psychology behind why some people strongly prefer texting over calling. Today, we're diving deep into the minds of people who would rather type 1,000 words than speak for 2 minutes on the phone. We'll explore the neuroscience, the personality factors, and the deep psychological reasons behind this preference. And if you're one of these people, you might finally understand why your brain works this way and why that's actually perfectly okay. First, let's be absolutely clear about something. Preferring texting over calling isn't about being antisocial, rude, or technologically dependent. It's fundamentally about how your brain processes communication, manages cognitive load, and regulates energy. When you receive a phone call, something complex happens in your brain. Within milliseconds, multiple neural systems activate simultaneously. Your auditory cortex processes the ringing sound. Your amygdala, your brain's alarm system, assesses whether this unexpected interruption is a threat or requires immediate attention. Your prefrontal cortex, responsible for executive function, has to immediately switch gears from whatever you were doing or thinking about. But here's where it gets really interesting. Unlike a text message that you can read and process at your own pace, a phone call demands what psychologists call synchronous communication. This means your brain has to operate in real time, with no buffer, no pause button, and no chance to carefully construct your response. For some people, this feels completely natural. Their brains are wired for verbal, spontaneous communication. They think out loud, process emotions through talking, and feel energized by real-time interaction. These are often people with what psychologists call extroverted nervous systems. They're stimulated and energized by external engagement. But for others, and maybe this is you, synchronous communication feels like cognitive overload. Your brain doesn't work best under pressure to respond immediately. You're what researchers call a reflective processor, rather than an active processor. You need time to think before you speak. You need space to consider your words, organize your thoughts, and formulate responses that truly reflect what you mean. Text messages align perfectly with how your brain naturally works. When you receive a text, you can read it, sit with it, process the information fully, consider the appropriate response, and then reply when you're ready. You can edit your words, reconsider your tone, and communicate exactly what you mean without the pressure of awkward silences or verbal stumbles. Research in cognitive psychology shows that people who prefer texting often score higher on measures of what's called need for cognition, the tendency to engage in and enjoy effortful thinking. They're people who naturally pause before responding, who consider multiple angles, who value precision in communication. For these individuals, the instant demand of phone calls can feel not just uncomfortable, but actually cognitively inappropriate, like being forced to run when you're built for careful, deliberate walking. Let's break down the deep psychological architecture behind this preference. There are 5 core reasons why your brain might be wired to prefer texting, and understanding them can help you make peace with this part of who you are. First, the processing time factor. Your brain might operate on what psychologists call an internal processing system. While some people externalize their thinking, they literally think by talking, you internalize yours. You process information deeply before expressing it. This isn't slowness, it's thoroughness. When someone asks you a question on a phone call, your brain goes through multiple stages, comprehending the question, accessing relevant memories and information, evaluating possible responses. considering social implications, and formulating words. All of this happens in seconds during a call, which can feel rushed and stressful. With texting, you can honor each stage of this process. You can take the 30 seconds or 3 minutes you need to respond thoughtfully. This doesn't make you less intelligent or socially capable. It makes you deliberate. And in a world of knee-jerk reactions and thoughtless comments, that's actually a strength. Second, energy management and introversion. Here's something crucial to understand. Phone calls require active, continuous energy output. You have to maintain attention without breaks, manage the emotional tone of the conversation, navigate awkward silences, pick up on vocal cues, and respond continuously. For many people, especially those with introverted nervous systems, this is genuinely exhausting. Introversion isn't about being shy or antisocial. It's about how your nervous system responds to stimulation. Introverts have more active dopamine pathways, meaning they get overwhelmed by too much external stimulation more quickly than extroverts. Phone calls are high-stimulation activities, unpredictable, demanding, and continuous. Texting, on the other hand, allows you to communicate without depleting your limited social energy reserves. You can respond between other activities, take breaks when you need them, and engage at a sustainable pace. You're not avoiding connection. You're managing your energy so you can show up authentically in all areas of your life. Third, anxiety reduction and control. Many people who prefer texting experience varying degrees of what researchers call telephone apprehension or phone anxiety. This isn't an official diagnosis, but it's a real phenomenon studied in communication psychology. The anxiety comes from uncertainty. When your phone rings, you don't know exactly who's calling. Even with caller ID, you don't know their emotional state or urgency. You don't know what they want. You don't know how long the conversation will last. You don't know if you'll be put on the spot with questions you can't answer immediately. Your brain, which craves predictability and preparation, finds all this uncertainty stressful. Text messages remove almost all of these unknowns. You can see who's messaging, read their tone in the message, assess what they need, and decide how and when to respond. This gives you a sense of control that phone calls simply don't provide. This need for control isn't about being controlling in a negative sense. It's about having appropriate boundaries around your time, attention, and emotional energy. In fact, preferring texting often indicates healthy boundary-setting skills. Fourth, authenticity through written expression. Here's something that surprises many people. A significant number of individuals who prefer texting actually feel more authentic and genuine when communicating in writing rather than verbally. Think about it this way. When you're on a phone call, you're managing multiple layers simultaneously. You're thinking about the content of what you're saying, but you're also managing your tone of voice, your pace of speaking, whether you sound confident or uncertain, whether you're interrupting or leaving awkward silences. All of these paralinguistic elements require cognitive resources. When you text, you can focus entirely on the meaning and content of your communication. You're not worried about whether your voice sounds weird, whether you're speaking too fast or too slow, or whether that nervous laugh just undermined your serious point. You can be direct, clear, and true to your actual thoughts without the interference of verbal performance anxiety. Many writers, thinkers, and deeply introspective people report that their written communication represents who they truly are more accurately than their spoken words ever could. If this resonates with you, it's not because you're somehow deficient in verbal skills, it's because your authentic self expresses more naturally through written language. Fifth, respect for others' time and autonomy. Finally, there's an interesting ethical dimension to preferring texting that's rarely discussed. Many people who prefer texting are actually demonstrating a high level of respect for other people's autonomy and time. Phone calls are interruptive by nature. When you call someone, you're essentially demanding they stop whatever they're doing and give you their immediate full attention. You're assuming that your need to communicate right now takes priority over whatever they were engaged in. Texting, by contrast, is respectful. You're saying, "Here's my message, read and respond when it works for you." You're not demanding immediate attention. You're offering information or connection in a way that respects the other person's schedule and energy, when preference becomes avoidance. Finally, there's a difference between preferring texting and using texting as an avoidance strategy for dealing with anxiety or difficult emotions. If your texting preference is rooted in healthy self-knowledge and communication style, that's fine. But if it's rooted in fear, anxiety that's limiting your life, or inability to tolerate any discomfort, that might be worth exploring with a therapist. The distinction is this: healthy preference means you can handle phone calls when necessary, but choose texts when possible. Avoidance means you experience significant distress at the thought of phone calls and will go to extreme lengths to prevent them, even when it creates problems in your life. So here's the ultimate truth about preferring texting over calling. It doesn't make you weird, antisocial, difficult, or somehow less than people who love phone calls. It means you communicate in a way that aligns with how your specific brain processes information, manages energy, and expresses authenticity. You're someone who values thoughtfulness over immediacy. You care deeply about being understood clearly and understanding others accurately. You respect boundaries, both your own and other people's. You manage your cognitive and emotional energy wisely, rather than depleting yourself trying to meet neurotypical, extroverted communication standards. You communicate authentically when given the space to process and reflect. The world genuinely needs people like you. In an age of constant interruption, immediate reactions, and thoughtless communication, you're the person who pauses, who considers, who chooses words carefully. While others are speaking without thinking, potentially saying things they don't mean or will regret, you're taking the time to say what you actually mean. While others are exhausting themselves with constant real-time interaction and wondering why they feel drained and overwhelmed, you're maintaining sustainable relationships by honoring your energy limitations. You've figured out how to stay connected without burning out, and that's genuine wisdom. Your preference for texting isn't a flaw to fix or a weakness to overcome. It's a form of profound self-awareness. You know how you communicate best. You understand your own needs. You honor your own wiring. That's not something to change or apologize for. It's something to understand, embrace, and explain to others when necessary. Yes, there may be moments when you need to stretch beyond your comfort zone. Important conversations might require phone calls. Professional contexts might demand immediate accessibility. Close relationships might benefit from occasionally hearing your voice, and that's okay. You can learn to tolerate these situations while still maintaining your overall preference. But please don't let anyone make you feel like something is wrong with you for preferring texting. You're not broken. You're not antisocial. You're not emotionally stunted or communication deficient. You're simply someone whose brain works in a specific, valid, perfectly acceptable way. So the next time your phone rings and you feel that familiar resistance rising in your chest, that mix of mild dread and the immediate thought, why didn't they just text? Remember this: there's nothing wrong with you. Your brain just works differently, and different isn't deficient. If people in your life don't understand, that's okay. You can explain, "This is how I connect most authentically. This is how my brain processes communication best. I'm not avoiding you. I'm actually trying to show up as my best, most genuine self." And for me, that happens through written words. The people who truly matter, the people who really see you and value you, will respect that. They'll meet you where you are, and they'll appreciate that when you do text them, every word is considered, genuine, and truly meant. If this entire video resonated with you on a deep level, if you found yourself nodding along thinking, "Yes, finally, someone understands," do me a favor, hit that subscribe button right now. Because here at Midnight, we explore the psychology behind behaviors that most people don't talk about. The things that make you feel different. The patterns that keep you up at night, wondering, why am I like this? You're not alone. in how your mind works. And every week, we dive into another aspect of human psychology that might finally help you understand yourself better. So subscribe, and let's keep exploring these midnight questions together. Also, drop a comment below. Are you team texting or team calling? I genuinely want to know, and I promise there's no wrong answer. If you found this video helpful, if it gave you language to explain something you've always felt but couldn't articulate, share it with someone who gets it. Send it to that friend who always texts back, "Can I call you?" and you think, "Please no." They'll understand. And remember, you're probably someone who processes life deeply, who values meaning over noise, and who communicates from a place of authenticity and self-knowledge. And that's not just okay, that's actually beautiful. I'll see you in the next video, where we explore another psychology question that keeps your mind awake at night. Until then, text responsibly, or don't respond at all. Both are valid.